The million dollar question: how do entrepreneurs transition from self-employed to owning a business that turns a profit? My name is Chris Waters, and this podcast has the million dollar answer. Welcome to CEO Secrets. Welcome to CEO Secrets. I'm extremely excited for the guest today, Keri Shull. She is a charismatic public speaker who has built and scaled multiple businesses. She enjoys coaching real estate agents, entrepreneurs, and women to grow businesses that empower them to live their best lives. She's a frequent contributor to Forbes Magazine, Business Insider, Money, and Entrepreneur on topics of entrepreneurship and goal achievement. And also just recently was named by Real Trends in the Wall Street Journal as having the number 13th team-owned brokerage in the entire United States. Keri also has 3 children, Braden, Kiera, and Grayson. That's probably the most important part, right, is our kids who we live our legacy through. So Keri Shull, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And I have another one on the way, so I am absolutely crazy.
Oh my gosh. Congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to have 4 under 5. So.
Wow. I have a 1-year-old and one that's about to turn 4. And we're having that discussion about number 3 right now.
Oh, so. You should do it. There's so much love, right? You get all the love of all the relationships. It's amazing.
So you have 4. You're going to have 4 under the age of 5.
Yeah. So I have a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and 4-year-old now.
You must be a high D. You're like, we're going to get this done.
Get it cranking. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, congrats. That's really cool.
Thank you.
So Keri, I want to dive into a couple things first. This is more for selfish reason and curiosity. How did you get into public speaking? How did you improve your skills in public speaking? What kind of impact did that have on your business locally? And then what did you do, locally, leveraging these skills you developed in public speaking?
That's such an awesome question. And I think that real estate agents often don't take advantage, and business leaders don't take advantage of speaking in public. So the first thing I would say, I had no actual training whatsoever. I remember I was going to speak at a real estate event, and I love speaking, right? I love talking to people. I'm naturally always training, and I have a big team. So I'm used to being in front of a group. And it's kind of happened over time. But I had a coach that I was working with that was teaching me how to present on video. And I remember calling her and saying, hey, I'm going to be speaking in front of a big audience. It was at a Virginia Women in Business event. And, there could be a couple hundred people, and I don't really know what I'm doing. And so the first thing, I'm a winger also. I'm not a get all prepared in advance. I'm kind of in the energy speaker. And I think a lot of us that are public speakers are that way, right? Because we sense what's happening with the crowd. And so there's not a huge plan. You might have a PowerPoint, but the direction you take the presentation depends on who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. And so when I got training, a lot of what they said was, well, that's great. And you want to use your intuition, but you don't want to wing it completely. So part of the guidance was practice up front, which makes sense because in anything else you do that. I will say I don't always take advantage of that advice. I still am a winger a lot of the time. But then the other piece was just, instead of presenting, this is my number one nugget, instead of presenting like you're presenting to however many people, pretend that you're doing a small workshop, because it's a lot more engaging, right? So then you're actually corresponding and engaging the crowd in a collaborative way. And so as soon as I got that, hey, I don't need to treat it like it's 500 people, I can treat it like it's 50 people and call on people and ask questions and get audience involvement. There's a separate skill of how to get the right level of involvement, because people will jump on the stage, take the microphone and go for it if you let them, right? But when I figured out the happy medium, that's when I really started to feel good about speaking.
What was it like for you growing up? Were you one of those kids in class that was ready to jump up and volunteer to go first?
I was a total nerd. Yeah. Yep. In the 6th grade, I had a class where my teacher believed in student facilitation. And I think I was the first one with my hand in the air to volunteer every time. Yeah. So
That's awesome. What were some of your big takeaways from that coach you hired? You mentioned hiring a speaking coach. Was it the workshop component? Like what did you pick up from them?
that was one of my favorites. But another thing that I picked up when I'm nervous, I go, so it was actually analyzing some of my weaknesses as a speaker and some of my ways of being if I'm nervous, so that I could recognize when it's happening and shift my energy quickly and get out of that. So I think sensing your energy is the most important thing when you're speaking to people. Just like when you're in a one-on-one conversation, it's all about connection. And if your goal is to empower them, to change something for them, it becomes a lot easier to focus on them than yourself. So I think a lot of people have nerves, but if your whole goal is delivering something for them, it just shifts the energy.
Yep.
Then the other thing, this is for the ladies out there. I used to have a side part. So she actually analyzed. And if you haven't had no one do this, I would recommend it. And for men, it can make a difference. She said, these are colors you can't wear anymore. Red was my favorite color. She was like, get rid of anything in your closet that's red. So she did an image consultation. Like I used to wear really dark lipstick. She was like, throw it all out. And so when I would try and argue with her, she would say, I'm sorry, you're just wrong, right? So she was a super direct person. I'm like, but I look great in pink. She's like, no, you actually don't. You look terrible in pink. So getting that advice, I think at first it made me feel like, what? A middle part? I haven't had a middle part ever in my life. She's like, you do now. So you see, middle part, right? So once I took her advice, then people in my life started saying, wow, you look great. And I was still trying to figure out if I liked some of her advice, but all the feedback I got was that she was right and I was wrong. So it was helpful.
Be coachable, I guess, right?
Yeah, even when it's something you don't want to hear.
Yeah. Something else you do is contribute to Forbes, Business Insider, Money, and Entrepreneur. How did that begin? How did you get access to be able to publish for those? Is it the online sites or the actual physical magazines?
The online site so far, and I'll tell you, most of the breakthroughs in my life have occurred from being in the room with other people who have already done something that I want to do. And so getting in those magazines, Sharon Srivatsa is one of my friends, mentors. He's incredible. He's the CEO of Kingston Lane. And I started seeing, oh my gosh, he's in Forbes, he's an entrepreneur, he's in all of these magazines. And he's like, well, you know, you have to get in a regular cadence of writing. And I have a group that I work with that helps get me placed in these magazines. And so as soon as he said that, I was like, who do I need to talk to? And what do I do? And so he paved the path for me and made it easy. The group that I worked with is called the Oracles. So if there's anybody out there that wants a recommendation, I recommend them highly. They made it easy for me. And all I had to do was produce the topic, right? They would tell me, here's the topic that you can choose from. And there'd be 8. And I would pick the one that resonated most with me. And I got to be in articles with Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, like some really incredible people. And that also paved a path for me to build a relationship with some of those people as well.
So the Oracle is a PR agency that helps you get the press in these. Cool. So in your local, so you are number 13th in terms of team-owned brokerage in the nation, but you're number 1 in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, which is pretty amazing. What is your average price point in that market?
Okay, I'm a total nerd here, Chris. So I'll tell you, our price point increased 15% in the last year. And we've been watching that. We were at an average of $651. And I don't know the exact dollar amount, but I know that for 2020, we're 15% above that this year. So we're consistently seeing an increase there.
And do you think those pieces you get in Business Insider and Forbes Magazine, is that helping your coaching business, or is that helping generate leads for your real estate firm in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area?
I think it's all how you leverage, right? So how it's working for me is that I'm utilizing it to attract clients in my local area, as well as to maybe inspire somebody who's in another market that might be looking to take their life and business to the next level.
Mhm.
I do think it works in the local market. And there's a bunch of other things we're doing to grow at the pace we're growing. But this year, our goal is 1,000 transactions, and I think we'll hit that. And it just takes being creative to figure out how to best use all of the things that you're doing. So what I see as a mistake that a lot of people make is they do the things and then they go, check, did it. And they don't figure out how to reutilize the same assets.
Mhm.
And that's something we re-release some of the stories. When we see that somebody in a group is commenting on a topic, we might post the story in that group. And so we continue to leverage them over time.
Mhm. How many people are on your team, Keri? What's your
So we're at
organizational chart look like?
91
Okay.
as of our quarterly offsite a few
Mhm.
days ago.
And so how many of those people are administrative operational staff and how many are salespeople?
Awesome question. I could talk about this all day long. So we have it set up so there's about 60 that are agent positions. And we have our agents have partners when they hit certain thresholds. So some of our staff are partners. They're actually licensed agents that support a team with the most talented and most successful, the people who are doing the most transactions on our team. And then we have a large ISA team.
So do you have like little sales team pods?
Yes.
With like a mentor above them?
No.
No?
Nope. So we don't do a mentor model, but we do one. Let's imagine that someone hits 36 transactions in a year, then they qualify for a partner, and that person they make a lot of money. They're making $80,000, $100,000 more. They are not an assistant. They are not a showing agent. They are a partner. And so we bring them on to change the work-life balance of the agent that's doing 36 transactions. Because what we've seen is when somebody starts hitting 36, 38, 45 transactions, they start to burn out. And they really look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm missing dinner. I'm not happy with my life. My weekends are dominated by my clients. And so we want to plug in someone really talented that wants to grow their business and learn. But it's not a mentor program. I've seen a lot of agents do that where they have a mentor and then they have 5 agents that they mentor. And I have not found a way that I feel it would work with the economics to inspire that person to essentially be a sales manager without being a sales manager, since they're still running a business.
Mm-hmm. So your partner agents, you're helping create leverage for them with people underneath to create that work-life balance. And then you're overseeing the lead generation, lead conversion component to just tee up face-to-face meetings.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. When you think back to the beginning of when did you start your business, by the way? What year
Best
did you?
Time ever, 2008, baby.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. What were some of your like big big ahas or like things that happened like in the early climb that helped you excel to the next level, and then like your next big aha? Like, you know, what do those things look like? You know, if you could have gone back in time and been like, okay, I should have done this. I should have done this first and then this and then that. Like, what would that sequence of events look like to compress time and accelerate your growth curve even faster than what you've already achieved?
Sure. So there's definitely some lessons learned along the way. Something that I realized pretty early on is that at the very beginning, it was about relationships, right? So in 2008, a lot of my business was accomplished just through going deep into my sphere. And I had come from a background in new home sales. And so I was, communicating with all of the agents in my past. One thing I did really poorly, I didn't stay in touch with all the clients that I had sold new homes, which looking back, I want to kick myself. So I did what was easy and inexpensive, which was the relationship building directly. But if I had actually stayed in touch with buildings, I sold condo buildings, entire communities of new construction homes that were in the 1.2 to $2.5 million price range. And I didn't stay in touch with those people. So number one lesson, like really evaluate all the people in your life that you should be staying in touch with. And I took amazing care of those people. They loved me and I didn't stay in touch with them. Okay.
Let me interrupt for just a quick second. Do you think there's a way to automate the referral side of your business, or do you think it's not possible?
I do. I think that you have to care about the relationship. So you can't put it on autopilot and not have any personal. Like for me, I learned this from one of my real estate coaches. I do letters of the heart. And that's me sharing vulnerability that's going on in my life, right? And being like, if I make a mistake in business that I learn from, sometimes I'll share that. And I think that creates raving fans that want to see you win, because you're not only sharing when you go on a family vacation or, you're sharing the real side of you. And that's not completely automated, but by doing it in a more personal way, I think that's more impactful than me sending a just sold postcard, right? So I think I could have, looking back, set it up so I stayed in relationship with all of those people, and I probably would have grown a lot faster. Go ahead.
Question I have for you is, imagine you're somebody that like gets into real estate because you want freedom. You want to one day have a business that can operate without you, and literally you just collect shareholder distribution checks. If you're not going to be involved in the business, how do you maintain that, personal relationship? If like, perhaps, you don't even want to, you want to spend half the year in another city vacationing or whatever. How would you, if you can't physically be there to spend time with clients, or maybe you don't even want to like put forth the effort to write the cards you were mentioning or the letters you were mentioning, and you just want the business to be on autopilot, is it a sustainable business model to be referral based? If you want to, because like, to get a business that is on autopilot, you have to have a lot of revenue, you have to have a lot of people, and if you're largely referral based, it's a hard thing to scale and maintain if you want to exit the business at some point.
Well, I don't think you can only be referral based. So I think it's very important that you have different pillars of success. And I will say this, you can systemize anything, right? You can systemize moments of vulnerability. So if you're not willing to have a 10-minute conversation with your copywriter to put that on autopilot, you probably should just get out completely, because your business will erode and you will suck. That's my opinion. I think that you can have minimal impact to your time by just getting smarter about how you automate things and the people you put in place to duplicate what you've already done. I think it would be short-sighted to say, I'm going to go on vacation for 6 months and I'm not going to even, like, you could pre-plan for 6 months those letters very successfully. Yeah. If you wanted to truly detach. But if you just walked away and said, I'm going to leave for 6 months and I'm not going to put the plans in place to support the relationships in my life, I think your business would dramatically decrease. And I think that lack of planning and connection is what causes a lot of agents to be perpetually in a lead generation cycle, because they don't care enough about the relationships to put the effort forth to stay in touch. So my personal opinion, do the work. And that doesn't mean that it has to take hours of your life. I mean, if I'm running multiple businesses, in addition to the hyperfast agent business and coaching agents around the country, I'm also doing development, and I have over 80 condos that I'm developing, and that's in progress right now. So there's raising money for that's happening. There's a lot of balls in the air, and I have 3 children and 1 on the way. I've had to learn about systemizing, right? Yep. And the other lesson that I was going to say that really allowed me to compress time, I learned to be honest with myself about my weaknesses. So in 2010, I went to my first real estate coaching seminar. Life-changing, like totally.
Which one did you go to?
It was a Craig Proctor event.
Okay.
And what was the most life-changing for me was actually social proof, seeing other agents that had scaled big teams that were selling hundreds of homes a year. And at that point, I didn't understand or ask the right questions about how much money they were taking home. So I will say I could have done a better job of understanding where I wanted to go based on where they had been. My recommendation, if you're someone out there, you want to understand how profitable someone is before you follow their model. I think there's a bunch of people that are running around out there with horrible real estate businesses that are teaching other people to model their business. And it's so sad because it'll never work. It'll never be successful. Just because you're selling a lot of homes does not mean that you're creating a system that's scalable. A lot of people, as they scale, end up making no money, right?
What profit margin are you helping agents achieve?
So in June, we were at 37%, which at my size, we're very happy with that number. We're actually happy with 25%. Mm-hmm. And if you imagine just our overhead, it's $500,000 to keep the lights on, mm-hmm. to keep the lead generation, to pay payroll, right? So some people, when I say that, are like, you're crazy. Well, if you're at 37% profitability in a month, you might want to really think through that. And you can look up all the numbers. Like it's about how do you have the right people to support the growth of your staff and put them in a position where they're effective and efficient, but not in a constant perpetual state of overwhelm. And it's a tightrope mm-hmm. to get it at that place. But you have to look at where you're going and hire for your vision. So going back to what I was about to say about weaknesses, like in 2010, after going to this event, I'm like, okay, I know that I'm going to stay in the business now. And I was trying to decide between 2008 and 2010. I mean, I sold 19 homes, I sold 21 homes, but I wasn't like knocking it out of the park, right? And it was, where's my next deal coming from? In 2010, I learned that I was total badass at lead generation. Okay. I was really good because I didn't overthink it. I just copied what I was told to do. I didn't think like, I'm smarter than everybody else, so I'm not going to listen to what they're doing and I'm going to tweak it. No, I was really good at just like step one, step two, and it worked. Okay. So what I learned is that I wouldn't make the calls. So my coach at the time was telling me, this is the position you're going to keep the longest. The ISA position, you don't pass to a team member, you keep it. And if I listened to that coach, I would have quit the business because that position was not for me. It wasn't in line with my core strengths. I'm really good at script training, but when it comes to sitting at a desk, like I'm not good at that. So the best thing that happened was that I knew myself well enough to know, as much as he tells me I have to do this and I respect him, I will not do it. So I had to hire an ISA team to compensate for that weakness, and not from a place of like, oh, maybe I should do this, from a place of I'm going to do this and succeed at it or leave the business. Mm-hmm. So I think that knowledge, I hired 3 at the same time. There are a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't know. My coach said, if you hire 3, 1 will make it, 2 will make it if you're lucky, and 1 will quit. And the other one probably won't last 6 months. And so instead of wasting your time training 1 and then training the next one. And so for everybody out there, I would say if you're getting in the ISA game and you've never done it before, but you know you're flushing money down the drain because you're not calling back your leads, hire 2. Like figure it out and don't look at, this is the other thing that I learned. Don't look at, oh my gosh, this is the amount of money I'm gonna have to pay this person over the year. You haven't seen the return on the money you're spending, so that seems overwhelming. But if everything you tried to plan for the year, you would never make any decisions. You would be perpetually stuck at the next level of growth, right? Mm-hmm. So what I recommend is you only look at it in a 90-day period. And you imagine at the end of 90 days, you're going to start getting your return off that person as long as you train them correctly and you compress time for their training to get them successful and contributing to the team fast, right? So hiring the 3 ISAs ended up being the best thing that I ever did. And our ISA team was very successful from the beginning. But one of those people broke up with her boyfriend and moved to Florida. Thank God I didn't have all my eggs in that basket, right? One of the people ended up deciding that she didn't like inside sales, and she lasted a couple months and then she phased out. And one of them was with me for a couple of years. So it was exactly like my next coach said. And if I were giving advice to anyone listening right now that's kind of at this point where they're not sure how they want to grow, any coach that's telling you, take step 1, hire this person, then take step 2 and hire this person, stop. Take a minute and listen to yourself. Figure out what your weaknesses are, and your position that you're hiring for is actually to fill the weaknesses that you have to make you a better balanced person. And I'm not really good with details, right? So my first assistant was like, wore so many hats, and really she was with me for over 4 years. She helped me hire and scale the team. So you need somebody who's super versatile and can really step up for your first hire, third hire, fifth hire. You just have to evaluate and not follow an exact path.
Where are you spending money on the lead generation side to provide opportunities for the inside sales team to convert leads?
Everywhere. So we have probably over 115 individual lead sources at this point.
What are your top, let's like go down your top, your top ones.
So we just looked at it, and the number one place that our agents are succeeding with SOI, which if you talk to most team leaders that provide a ton of leads, I can tell you most of their agents are not succeeding with SOI.
And so are you like extracting their database and helping them with marketing to their sphere?
So what we do have them put their leads in the database. We do 4 client events a year. And we also have other touches that we recommend. We have social touches. Like as an example, we have access to about 280 off-market properties right now. So we create social around that and then have our agents post it so that their SOI knows if they know anyone looking to buy to refer them to our agents. That's an example of something that we do to help them harness the power of the team and have their SOI see how powerful it is. Yep. In making referrals to them. But what we've done, the actual game changer, is we said, hey, we want you guys to make an unbelievable amount of money. I think a lot of team leaders get stuck thinking, I don't want to give away. I think this is the wrong way of thinking about it, but I'm going to tell you what people think. I don't want to give away too much money. But my perspective is I actually want my goal is to have agents on my team net over $1 million. And in Arlington, we're 4 times above our closest competitor. We're number 1 in the entire DMV. And I would assert that my top agents are making more than any solo agent in my market, which is a pretty bold statement, right? But part of that is having them have an unusual advantage for doing SOI deals. So in my team, they cap out when they hit 30,000 in company dollar, and then their split on the buy side changes to 95%. And on the list side, it changes to 90%, and we still pay for everything. So they're able to make a crazy amount of money. They have a lot of incentive to build that business. In the olden days, I had people who'd been with me for 5 years, 6 years. They'd never done an SOI deal. They weren't even talking to their neighbors because they were having so many leads with the team and they didn't care. Now that we've set it up this way, it's in everyone's best interest. The team still makes the $30,000 based on doing all the assets, getting them to build their SOI. And as the team scaled, it's become a significant lead source. It used to be like 6th or 7th, right? But it's grown over time because we've rewarded the agents for doing the work, right? And a lot of people think I come to a team so I don't have to do that. But that's something that's worked really well for us. We're really, really good at open houses. So we have some unusual strategies that we use. I have an entire presentation on this, but we use geofencing, and we actually geofence the open houses around the house that we're going to sell and invite them to our open house. And so we do that in the coming soon phase so we can have a major amount of traffic at the open house. And then we do a lot of training. I have an entire course on how do you actually sell the home you're in or book an appointment from the open house. And our agents.
On the geofencing side, so Facebook, you used to could do that. And then they, because of all the restrictions, they don't let you do that anymore. Are you using a platform or software to pull IP addresses to do geofencing?
We are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible. So if there's anyone out there, you can send me a message on Facebook or LinkedIn if you want to know about the software in your market. If you're in my market, sorry, I am not sharing, but anywhere else I will be totally open. I mean, it's been incredible for our business because it's allowed us to be very focused. We just did an analysis yesterday where we said, what's the failure rate, days on market, and average price point in various zip codes? And we're going to dial down from there because we're deciding what our target neighborhoods are for next year. Mm-hmm. If we didn't have the geofencing technology that we have, we couldn't even target it that way anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've got Sphere at the top, which you're helping people automate and master, open houses, and then like when you think about like leads that you spend a lot of money on, like from a cost per lead basis perspective, like what would be in that category?
Yeah. So about 2 years ago now, I got to have a one-on-one conversation with Gary Vee. And the biggest thing that I took away, everybody knows he's a content monster, right? But he said, Keri, be the mayor of your town. Stop competing with the other real estate agents and compete with the news. And I took that to heart. And so I now have 2 full-time videographers. I have 2 copywriters, and we spend a lot of money and time, but our conversion rate when somebody comes to our website to appointment is 90% when they fill out the form. Like it's sick. Why? Well, they've seen me interviewing and people on my team. It's not just me. It's a lot of our agents step up and do the work. We're interviewing restaurant owners. We're out in the community. 2 weeks after my baby was born, I put him in a tummy pack and went and did 14 playgrounds, I think 12 or 14 playgrounds in 2 days with my video team. And I was like, I wanted to get my other 2 out of the house, right? So I'm like, listen, we're going to go explore every playground in Arlington. And we're just releasing that content now. So it's like, and then imagine the power of that when you post it in the moms groups in your community. I become somebody that they're like, oh my gosh, our favorite playground, Keri Shull's the one who told us, right? So they already know me. It's different than, so then if you put together that content strategy and then you imagine the power of really getting in there, and we also have someone who just specializes in SEO. So he's taking all the content and then he's figuring out the keywords. And so that entire machine, the amount of leads we're generating through Google, both organic and paid right now, and Facebook paid, would blow your mind. But know that it's not just a paid ad. It's everything that goes into creating the right ad and the right landing page to have the conversion work.
Are you doing anything on the mass media side? Like, I don't know, like crazy amounts of direct mail, radio, TV, billboards, anything like that?
Yes. So I have done both radio and television in the past. For me, the ROI compared to what I could do digitally did not compare. So I had Barbara Corcoran actually as a endorsed.
Yep, through the rate group. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it did not work. I still see it in my ROI report as like the list of the biggest losers. Yeah. So I know that people would be unhappy with me saying that, but that is just what it was for me. And maybe it was because I was too focused on a specific area. I know there are agents around the country that is working very well for. I have been doing billboards and I do them. It's Arlington, DC Metro. So there aren't a lot of them. So I do the bus ads. And part of that has actually been an increase in SOI business. So it's hard to measure the success of that campaign. But what happens is people take their kids to school the same way every day. And I'll get picture texts from them like, I see you. And it's past clients, right? I helped them buy a home 8 years ago, but they're still texting me saying they see me a couple times a month, right? Yeah. And their kids think it's cute and they're like, oh, Miss Keri. And I still send them gifts and they still come to these events. So we stay very connected and in relationship.
Cool. That's awesome. Let's shift gears for a minute. I want to hear a little bit more about this development project you're involved in. Are you bankrolling this yourself, finding the architects, engineers, GCs? Is that what you're doing?
So no, and it's not one condo project. It is multiple condo projects in DC. And the way that we've done it, we did not do hard money lending. We were able to finance it, but we raised the equity piece.
Okay. But this is like you own this project, like you nuts to bolts, you're doing it all.
Yeah. And we have what we've done. So about almost 10 years ago now, I started working with a builder, and we've been working together a really long time. He's amazing, Sunil Saxena. And so we partnered with him and essentially have a 50-50 partnership on all of these development deals. So one of the things, I didn't try and go out and save as much money as I could hiring a cheap contractor. Like that's what can totally screw you in this situation. I went with someone who had a ton of experience that offered a lot of value that I felt was a really, really good partner. And so I sleep well at night. If I were the one that was managing the construction, that would be a whole nother beast, right? So I suggest you stay in your lane a little bit. I will tell you that raising money was outside of my lane. My husband's really good at that. So we've raised over $7 million in the last 6 months to a year for these projects. That was new. That was something that was different.
What were your strategies to raising funds to be able to joint venture a project with the developer?
Sure. So the first thing that we did, we recognized we're really good at webinars. We use them in our business. And that's part of what enabled us to pivot so quickly. When a lot of other agents around the country were struggling with coronavirus, we were able to take everything we were doing virtual with a few clicks of a button.
Awesome.
For fundraising, it started out, we went to friends and family, which I think is what everybody does, right? So nothing new there. And then we started asking them for referrals. And then we started doing like grid. I don't know if you know Rob Chavez. I love Rob Chavez. He has a group for investors in our area. We partnered with him and rolled that out in a different market segment than where he had his group. And we have over 500 investors in that group. So that's somewhere where we can say, hey, we have a project coming up. My husband went to the Naval Academy. So he started doing some networking with the Naval Academy grads and presenting the projects there. It was really just us being intentional about the kind of people we thought would want to get their money out of the stock market in these uncertain times and focusing there. I will say I was not as involved in this piece of it, but from March until now, Dan raised over $4 million. And a lot of that was just being consistent, putting the opportunity in front of more people. And then they were excited. I mean, it's a 15% return, preferred return. So at that rate, compared to what's happening in the stock market, a lot of people are like, where do I sign up?
Yeah. What are some of your favorite technologies or emerging technologies in the real estate space right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I am more the person who sits back and helps strategize on the team, not the technology. I have people that are researching. I'm asking for help. Anyone who has a suggestion here. We are looking for a technology. They're researching a couple different companies, so I don't have a solution, and I want you to tell me if you have one. I want a better solution than Mojo Dialer and our CRM. Like, I want to be able to have an all-in-one where we can take from different CRMs and have a list populate where the lead is coming from and have the integration from when the lead comes in to putting it on the screen and dialing and connecting us with the person. I want it all to happen instantly. And we've tried so many technologies. So if you guys are seeing this, wherever you're seeing it, and you have a technology that you feel like is call center worthy, like amazing and next level, I want you to put it in the comments. So I'll ask for that help. And then I'll say, I think some of the technology that we use with the geofencing is probably my favorite that I've gotten intimately involved with. I'll give you a specific example. Like, I sat in on this meeting with my marketing director, who usually I wouldn't be there, but he said, hey, just come meet them. And I started asking questions. Okay, so if we geofence a hospital And we don't want the patients, we only want the doctors and the people who work there. Can we only geofence the people who've been there 4 of the last 5 days for the last month? And they're like, yes. So there's ways of being so specific with who sees your stuff that it's amazing. Even at a hotel, if I want to get a group of real estate agents that are going to a hotel and I only want them, I don't want the hotel staff, I can look at the timing that they're there and only geofence them. So it's so specific and such amazing technology. You want me to tell you one other, you asked me about direct mail. Would you like me to share something from the beginning of my career that I've adjusted to digital that I used to do?
I'd love to. I want to interrupt 1 second. There's something I'll share with you. So first off, I think at a certain team size, like Salesforce becomes a great platform to use because it integrates with Five9, which is like the most preeminent calling center platform that's used like in the Fortune 500 world. So I wouldn't, like somebody like kind of in the early growth stage of real estate doing, maybe 100, 200, I don't know, even like smaller teams doing 200-300 transactions. It probably wouldn't be right for them, but like I would share with you, check out Five9, the dialer, and Salesforce.
That's one that they're researching. So that makes me happy that's one you said. But does it integrate with Infusionsoft?
So there's an integration between Salesforce and Infusionsoft and Five9. So all those integrations exist. Most of the real estate specific technologies out there really struggle from an integration side. And the best
and you
tool,
have to have 10.
Right, exactly. But what the truth is though, when you're a smaller team, like you should go out and get like, all these different systems. And then the most important part, as you just said, is integrating them all. And the best tool out there for integrating real estate specific software applications, for example, pulling leads from one system and getting them into your primary CRM so they're loaded into your dialer. The best one is RealSync, and that's RealSynch. And they integrate real estate specific software applications and pull data in real time from all of your different your systems. So you don't have to like manually import and export CSV files and all those things. There's like a huge time lag. So look into that one.
I would love to ask you for 5 minutes of your time to talk to my tech guys because they would eat this up.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
So tell me about direct mail. You said it sounds like at a certain point you did direct mail, and then you developed a new strategy to replace direct mail. Tell me more about that.
I did. So I will say this: the way that I went from being very small in the Arlington market to really dominating the Arlington market was I wanted to sell new homes. That was my background. And when I looked at it, I said, okay, if I go to the builder and say, I'm very nice, I've sold a lot of new homes, I have excellent marketing, I'm going to sound like every other real estate agent on the planet, and I'm going to get blown off a lot, right? So I looked at it, what is that builder looking for? What is preventing the builder from scaling to where they want to go? And ultimately, the answer that I heard when I asked that question was always the land opportunities. So I recognized if I go to lunch with the builder, which the partner I have today, I went to lunch with him and asked him for an exclusive relationship in the first lunch. And that was almost 10 years ago. He didn't know me and he said yes. And he already had multiple properties. So I'm going to tell you how I got that kind of traction with somebody that's now I'm on track to make millions of dollars with, right? And it started by me being different than the other agents because I cared about what would make a difference for them. Now, I was selfish. I wanted their exclusive business, right? But I recognized I have to solve a problem for them in order to get that. And so to get the land, here's what I observed. The agents that were selling new construction were too good, too senior in their career to go have the living room conversations with the couple that had mold in their basement and needed to get out of their house, right? And I was willing to get my hands dirty and do both. So how did I put myself in the living room with the right people to have the land to get the builders to follow me and want to work with me? And I used a direct mail strategy that I believe if I still did it today would have a very high ROI, but now I do it differently. So I'm going to tell you how I did it then. I started out with 200 homes.
I want to ask you a good question. So Craig Proctor is a big advocate of direct mail. Mm-hmm. Has he also switched his strategy? Is he now doing it? Is he recommending to his coaching clients?
I do not have a relationship with Craig anymore, but what I will tell you, the program I developed came from being around his members, and I just used something that was my own, which was developing a niche target. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of his stuff was like, get your home evaluation, right? It was very cookie cutter. And I tried some of that and I didn't get the same traction. And so I said, how do I get what I want, which is the builders, and get the right messaging to these homeowners to get them to raise their hand, which he was all about direct response, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. So the segment that I originally had, I looked for the land value, which you guys can do this in your MLS. If you're trying to duplicate this and roll it out in your market, it is not hard. Okay. And I assume all of you would say yes, please, to having builders who are loyal to you because you bring them what they want and getting the highest price point listings in your area, right? That's a no-brainer. Yep. So what I did was looked for a land value that the percentage of the house that was on the property was very low, because that told me that they hadn't improved that asset and that it was more than likely going to be a teardown. And that's what I was after. I was after the teardown properties. So at first I started really small.
What percentage is that, by the way?
It's different in every market, and I've studied it with a lot of my coaching clients. So you have to look at first, where are new homes selling? And then what are builders paying for the land? So you can see a track record and a history of success, and then pay attention to that percentage. And that's what you go look for in your market. Does that make sense?
Are you using any kind of software to help you aggregate that information, like Remine or something like that?
No, because Remine didn't exist then. Oh. So when I started it, I was solely using the MLS. That was it. Huh. I was just going in the tax record and developing a list, and then I was putting the mailing addresses on the envelopes at first because I was small, right?
But what I love about what you're saying is that you're providing the builders and developers with what is their greatest need, which is finding land at a realistic acquisition price so that they can have a profitable endeavor. And it's interesting, and I don't know about in your area, but here in Texas, title companies get paid really well. It's we have one of the highest title premium rates in the country, and that is one of the single biggest value propositions of the title companies, is helping them acquire land deals. So that's awesome. That's really cool you did that.
Thank you. It worked really well. So once I would send the letter, this was the other key. I had to test a lot and figure out what worked. And what worked was sending the letter 3 times in a row, 1 week apart. And I would handwrite on the top before I photocopied it. And by the way, I was doing this myself at first. And then I ended up hiring an agency that I outsourced it to. When I retired this approach, I was doing this to 20,000 targets. So I went from 200 to 20,000. And I was also sending video to the builders saying, I have the land. So then the builders were calling me and saying, what do you have in this neighborhood? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it made sense to expand the program. Now what I did is I took that same, and the headline of the letter, by the way, was a local builder wants to buy your home. Super simple. And then it would be, here's the options we have for you. Call for a consultation so we can explain the financial options, right?
Were you setting up a strategy where the property owner could be involved in the development and get a percentage of the profit?
I was the most flexible person on the planet because flexibility wins. So I would listen to the homeowner and their needs. I was actually funding the renovation the numbers didn't work. There's times that I would go into the house and the tax report was wrong. And so it would be this beautiful renovated home and I'd get the listing, right? I actually didn't care what I was walking into. My whole goal was connecting with the seller and learning what mattered to them and providing solutions and options. So I wasn't selfishly thinking, I'm going to meet Sally and Tim and I'm going to get their home for the builder. I was thinking, how do I serve Sally and Tim? And the good news is I was doing it at scale. So I still had enough opportunities for my builders by providing the right solution for the seller.
Yep. Great. Yeah. So you're being very agile, yet obviously on the opportunities that presented themselves for development, you were helping tee up for builders.
Yes. And have you guys heard of Curbio? That's
Yeah.
So I was doing that on a small scale where I would help them move into a hotel. I would pay for the hotel. I would paint their houses. I would redo their floors. I would renovate the bathroom. And I was managing the construction crew at that time. And then I would take out of the proceeds, I would take the expenses to do that. And so that was one of the options. So it was like, whatever, it was very hard to beat me, right? Because no matter what they wanted, I'm like, okay, let's do that. Like, sure, let's do that, right?
That's awesome.
So I would say, if you're going to do a program like this, now there's people in place that will finance that for you. It's a lot easier than when I was doing it and I was eating ramen noodles because I needed to wait to get the money back that I had put out till the house sold, right? But the more options you have and the more you can make the seller feel empowered and that you're their advocate, the better. And then it's really easy to put those deals together. And I also had a group of investors that would flip. So if the numbers weren't quite right on a new construction, I could consider a flipper as well. And then I got the outsell from the flipper, right? So it was like, I just was winning and winning and winning by being creative and providing solutions. So fast forward to today, what I did, I geo-fenced those 20,000 homes. And then now I am serving those people ads, not every 90 days, 1 week apart, every day. Every day. Those same 20,000 people hear from me.
That's awesome. I want to ask you something about kind of shifting gears again about just the future of the real estate industry. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot of money getting injected into the real estate industry to try to create disruption. We've had iBuyers and companies shifting into more of a brokerage model that were previously lead generation focused. What does it look like in your eyes when you take into account some of these technology disruptors? For example, do you see a certain segment of the real estate agent population that no longer exists because people are now, more specialized and more efficient and effective and their value propositions are stronger? Like, where's your head at in terms of what do you see the industry looking like from a brokerage and real estate agent perspective in the years to come?
Sure. I love this question. I will start by saying this. I feel like the people who do the work, who care deeply about their clients, they have a ton of job security. And Purple Bricks is a perfect example. Do you know Purple Bricks?
Yep. Came to the US, lost a lot of money, shut down and went back to the UK.
Enjoy the UK. So I bring them up because of this. Real estate is a complex process. Mm-hmm. And when you hire somebody that has no more training than the guy selling shoes at Nordstrom, they are not going to last. And so the agents who want to succeed are going to have to invest in their training, their skills. They're going to have to develop deeper relationships. But for the people who do that, this is a complex thing that people only do a few times in their life. We are worth the money. We save them from a ton of heartache, a ton of stress, and we make them more money when we do our job well. And so constantly I see that we're competing with companies like Redfin, right? But they don't have the same training or systems that we do. And so we're still able to win because the results are clearly different. So what I see changing in the real estate industry is that I think a lot of very, very successful agents are choosing to join teams and be partners. And so they can have more resources. There isn't a solo agent in the area who has the same value proposition that I do. It's not possible. They can't afford it. And so some of the agents who are very successful, we had a $60 million producer we're in conversation with that's looking to join our team because they're looking at it and they're saying, well, if I go into a listing appointment against you and you have geofencing and you have your content strategy and I would rather have that and win more listings and have a higher conversion. And especially because we structured the SOI the way that we have. So that's not to just talk about my team, it's to talk about what's happening in our nation right now. And I believe that talent wants to be around talent. And so the big teams are getting bigger. And the little guys that are doing 2 transactions, 3 transactions, 4 transactions, it's going to be harder and harder for them to survive. And the part-time agents, harder and harder for them to survive because they can't set themselves up to have a lot different value than somebody that's like a Redfin. And so when they're competing, their only option is to compress their commission to win. And when they do that, it doesn't make sense to spend their time. They might as well go sell shoes at Nordstrom or be a waitress, right?
Is there a more tech forward company you're optimistic about that you feel like has the best chance to excel in the industry?
You're saying that is a brokerage model?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No,
like
I don't
Redfin
think that,
or Zillow or, Open Door or any of those. Is there one specific one you feel like has a competitive advantage or has a good chance of being really successful?
well, I think Zillow is dancing an interesting line right now, right? They've pissed a lot of people off, but they help a lot of people make a lot of money, including myself. I still pay for Zillow leads, and I know agents, some of you are going to judge me right now, but we've collaborated with them. There's been times when I've been very frustrated with them. And I know that they're changing to different models in different areas. They're not doing that in my area yet. I have some friends that are doing the exclusive sales for Zillow in their market, right? So there's no one system that I think we as real estate agents need to be afraid of. I'm not afraid of Redfin. I would imagine most of you aren't in your communities either, because the agents that they have aren't the same caliber agents necessarily as the people who are on your team, and the results they create are different. So I think what's important is continuing to create the results so that you always have the story that makes clients have confidence in you. I don't think that there is a discount brokerage out there that we need to be afraid of. I think we just need to keep investing in ourselves and keep bettering the results that we can provide for our clients. And there will always be a need for us.
Let me ask you hypothetical on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of what you just said. Let's say hypothetically the real estate brokerage industry was gone tomorrow. What would you go into? Like how would you shift and pivot? Where would you see yourself go if the industry was to be poof?
If I were living
tomorrow
on Mars tomorrow and there was
Yeah.
So I think that I would focus on development. I think that there is a lot of money to be made in the development side of the business. I don't think there's a scenario where you're going to take a developer that's selling 200 condos and put a discount firm, whoever would have taken over the industry in this hypothetical world. So I still think there would be a ton of opportunity, but I love the development side of the business as well.
Cool. Is that from a wealth building perspective, would you say, is that where, you're focused from a wealth building perspective? Like investing your discretionary income?
Yes, it is. I would say that I invest a lot of my income back into the team because I see a bright future for real estate. And so it's in that, and then in Hyperfast Agent, because I feel like helping agents grow their business in compressed time is probably one of the most rewarding gifts I can give back to other people after doing this for the last decade of my life. And so we invest a lot of money in that as well.
Cool. Keri, where can people that are listening to this find more information about your team? What website can they go to? And if they're interested in potentially coaching with you, where can they go and learn more about Hyperfast? Tell us where people can find you. What's the best path?
So if something I said today, whether it's geofencing, more like an example of our teardown strategy, something like that, I would go to the hyperfastagent.com And you guys can send us a message there. I also am going to pull up real quick a discount code for you guys. We have an event that is coming up that I am so excited about. It's in October. We're getting ready to release the date, and we have some crazy speakers that are coming to that. So I'm going to have to send you the discount code and the website because it's just getting launched. But that would be something that I would highly encourage people to do just by putting yourself in the room with other industry leaders. It's a game changer. It's totally changed my life and business. In fact, that's what got me into development. I was sitting in a room with people who were talking about development, and I'm like, well, wow, if they're doing this successfully, why can't I? There's got to be a path that makes sense for me to do this. And that was about 2 years ago. And now I have 80 units in my pipeline. So it happens fast when you get intentional. If you write this down, www.hyperfasttips.com. That's 100 tips that my husband and I put together to help you grow your real estate business faster, absolutely free. And if you have any questions about anything I said, you can just type them into that website as well.
Cool. Keri, you've been an amazing guest on the show today. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing such a wealth of knowledge. Congratulations on all your success. Guys, if you're tuning into this, you can also watch this on YouTube or iTunes. And Keri, until next time, thank you again for being on.
Thank you so much, Chris. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.